Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
My name's Carrie Edwards, and my brother punched me in the face at the county fair, right before I won first place in the truck rebuild competition. It wasn't some bar fight or family squabble turned sloppy. This was surgical, on purpose. He waited until I stepped into the announcer's circle, right as the judges were handing me the plaque, to swing. Fist to cheek, split lip, whole crowd watching. It cracked loud. My head snapped sideways. Blood hit the front of my shirt. I didn't go down, though. Didn't make a sound. Just stood there, mouth open, tasting metal while the crowd gasped and someone screamed. Dean didn't even try to run. He stood there like he'd just scored something, like the hit was more important than the trophy. His face was locked in this sick half smile, eyes locked on mine like he'd finally proven a point. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. I was the idiot who invited him, hoping maybe this time he'd be proud of me. I'd mailed the invite myself with a note clipped to it. Hope you'll come. Pathetic. He showed up late just before the final round. Stood back by the fence, arms crossed, watching while I tightened the last bolts on my rebuilt '79 Ford. 6 months of nights and weekends poured into that engine. I didn't think he'd actually come. Should have trusted that gut drop when I saw his face. Before we go on, share which city or country you're watching from. When the announcer called my name and the crowd clapped, I took one step forward. That's when I saw him move. One stride, no hesitation, and the next second I was bleeding in front of 100 strangers. Someone shouted, "What the hell, man?" But Dean didn't flinch. He looked proud. He wanted an audience. I pressed my sleeve to my face, felt the heat and wet stick to the cotton. My hands were shaking, but not from pain. From rage. He wanted to knock me down, embarrass me, make me look weak. Screw that. I walked right past him, straight up to the judges, blood running down my chin, and took my damn plaque. They didn't know what to do, just stood there frozen while I nodded and turned around like I hadn't just been hit in front of everybody. I didn't say a word to Dean, not yet. I wasn't going to give him what he wanted, not a scene, not a reaction. He'd waited his whole life to ruin a moment like that for me. He wasn't getting it. The plaque felt heavier than I expected. I didn't even stop to clean the blood off my face before walking it to the work tent and setting it down next to the open hood of the Ford. I could still feel eyes on me, whispering, watching like they weren't sure what had just happened. I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't the first time Dean tried to hurt me in a place I felt proud, not even close. We grew up out past Route 11, down a dirt road that dead-ended at a junkyard. Our dad ran with 2 fingers of whiskey in one hand and a socket wrench in the other. The whole place smelled like rust and motor oil. Everything we owned was dented, scratched, or one windstorm away from being stripped for parts. But Dean, he acted like king of it all, like the junk was his throne. He was 3 years older and always wound tight, like a spring ready to snap. Fights at school, broken windows at home, smashed TVs, holes in doors. Then he'd sit there all calm, acting like he was the victim, like the world owed him something for making him so angry. He hit me the first time when I was 12. I laughed at something dumb during dinner, maybe a joke from the radio, and the next thing I knew, his hand cracked across my cheek. Not a punch, just a flat, stinging slap that left my ear ringing. Mom barely flinched, said he was just going through things. Dad didn't say a word, just scraped his fork louder. Dean didn't even look sorry, just went back to eating like nothing had happened. After that, it was like a switch had flipped. He'd sneak me candy one day, a Milky Way stuffed in my jacket pocket like he cared, then cut the valve stems on my bike tires the next. Once, I found my toolbox dumped out into the mud behind the shop, wrenches rusted overnight. When I asked if he'd done it, he laughed and said I shouldn't leave my toys where real work happened. He used to call me Little Wrench. At first, I thought it meant he saw me, like I mattered. But over time, I realized it was his way of reminding me I was just a tool in his story, something he used, something in the background. Before we go on, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I spent more time with engines than people. They didn't yell, didn't lie, didn't hit back. I'd drag a busted alternator out from the scrap pile, clean it, take it apart, rebuild it just to feel like I had control over something. Dean hated that, hated when I fixed things without asking, said I was showing off. Said I thought I was smarter than him. He didn't want a sister. He wanted an audience. He'd mess with me for weeks, then act like the one time he drove me to school meant we were even, like it was all balanced. He always kept score, but only if he was winning. One time, I was maybe 14, trying to get an old Civic starter to fire, and he came up behind me and yanked the hood shut so hard it bounced. I jumped, banged my head, and he laughed. "Should have been paying attention, little wrench," he said. I didn't cry. Not then, not for him. But that night, I locked my door and pushed a dresser in front of it. Just in case. The messed up part. Some nights, he was fine. We'd sit on the back steps, passing a bag of chips, and he'd talk about getting out of town, building custom cars, going to the coast. He had big plans when he wanted to sound important, but he never followed through, never built anything, just destroyed. That house, that yard, it wasn't just rust, it was rot. By the time I was 16, I started keeping a go bag hidden behind the dryer. Tools, cash, clean clothes, title to my car. I didn't know when I'd leave, just that I would. Because I knew Dean, and I knew one day he wouldn't just want to scare me, he'd want to ruin me. I kept that go bag behind the dryer for 6 months. Then one night, I used it. Dean had thrown a wrench across the kitchen because Mom burned the cornbread. It shattered a glass cabinet and clipped her arm. She screamed, and he just walked out, cool as anything, like he hadn't done a damn thing wrong. Dad didn't say a word, just lit a cigarette and turned up the TV. I was 17. I remember staring at the blood running down Mom's elbow and thinking, if I don't leave now, I never will. So I grabbed my bag, loaded my tool set into the trunk of my '97 Civic, and drove out without saying goodbye. No big speech, no tears, just tires on gravel, one last look in the rear view, and gone. I slept in the car the first 2 nights behind a closed tire shop in Greenville, took showers at the gym where I worked part-time, fixed engines during the day, crashed wherever I could. It wasn't glamorous, but I breathed better than I ever did back home. Didn't hear from Dean for almost 3 years. Not a birthday call, not even a, "Where'd you go?" Just silence. Then one night my phone rang out of nowhere. Unknown number. I answered stupidly. "Hey, it's Dean," he said like we'd just missed a coffee date. "Why are you calling me?" I asked. He sighed. "Can't I just check in on my baby sister?" He always did that. Started soft, like the past didn't exist. 10 minutes in, it was clear why he called. He'd gotten dumped, needed a place to crash, said he was between jobs, said maybe we could rebuild the bond. I hung up mid-sentence, didn't even wait for the fake tears. Quick note, before listening further, share which city or country you're watching from. That call opened the gate. Over the next few years, he popped up every couple months, always broke, always alone, always spinning some story about turning things around. Never once asked how I was, never once said sorry. He wanted something every time. And every time I hung up, I told myself I was done. But something in me still hoped, I don't know, that he'd change. That he'd look at me one day and not see someone to break down. That maybe he'd see what I'd built. The cars, the life, the me that had nothing to do with him. So when I saw the flyer for the county fair truck rebuild comp, I did something I shouldn't have. I printed it out, mailed it to the last address I had for him, a P.O. box outside Athens, wrote 2 dumb sentences on a sticky note, "Hope you'll come," built something real this time. I thought maybe if he saw me standing there, tools in hand, next to a truck I brought back from the dead, maybe he'd be proud, or at least quiet, or just human. It was weak, yeah. But that piece of me, the one that still wanted a big brother, wasn't dead yet. I checked that P.O. box tracking slip every day for a week until it showed delivered. I figured he'd toss it, maybe laugh and throw it in a bar trash can, but he didn't. He showed up. He didn't come to watch me win. He came to tear it all down. I spotted him as soon as I looked up from the wrench, leaning on the fence near the south end of the arena, arms crossed, weight shifted casual, like he belonged there. That stupid half smirk already locked in place. The same one from high school fights, from family dinners, from every time he knew he was about to ruin something. It hit me like a chill up the spine, cold, sharp, that gut drop feeling before a tornado touches down. I was under the hood of the '79 Ford I'd spent half a year rebuilding. Frame, engine, interior, even the damn trim. 6 months of sweat, scars, and late nights in a borrowed garage. I'd sunk everything I had into that truck. It was the first thing I'd ever built that didn't come from someone else's broken pieces. And now Dean was here, watching. I didn't wave, didn't nod, just went back to tightening the throttle cable like my hands weren't shaking, like his eyes weren't burning through the back of my head. That truck had been scrap metal when I found it. Seized engine, busted carb, all 4 tires rotted out. Now it purred like a threat and looked good enough to stop traffic. I'd done it right. I'd done it without him. He didn't come to see it. He came to break something. I saw the judges walk toward the center ring, clipboards in hand, mics checked. My stomach tightened. One of them pointed toward my truck. Another looked back at the announcer's booth. Then I heard it. Third place, Ray Carter. Second place, Lisa Monroe. And then, first place, Carrie Edwards with the 1979 F-150 restoration. The crowd clapped. People started turning toward me. I took a breath and stepped forward. He moved fast. Before we go on, tell us which country or city you're watching from. 1 second, I was walking through the gate rope. The next, bam! His fist landed square on my cheekbone. Hard, solid. I tasted blood immediately. Everything around me slowed, like the fair sounds were underwater. My knees buckled, but I didn't fall. I blinked. Once, twice, spit copper onto the dirt. He was still standing there, fist clenched, like he couldn't believe I didn't drop. The crowd gasped. One lady yelled, "Oh my God!" A kid started crying. But Dean didn't flinch. He just stared like he was daring me to say something. I didn't. I pulled my sleeve to my face, pressed it to the cut, felt the warm drip trail down my chin. My shirt collar soaked quick. I looked at the judges. They didn't move. Stunned. One guy had a mic halfway to his mouth and just froze there, eyes wide. Another had her hand on her chest, like she was trying to keep her heart from leaping out. Dean took a step back, like he was expecting applause or maybe confusion. Like maybe he could spin it, play it off, be the victim again. I saw his lips twitch like he wanted to talk, but I turned away. I didn't give him a word, not even a look. I walked up to the announcer's table with blood still running down my neck and held out my hand. The guy hesitated, looked around like he needed permission. I didn't lower my hand. Finally, he gave me the plaque. "Congrats," he said, voice unsure. I took it, nodded once, turned around, and walked back toward the Ford. Dean was still standing there, frozen in that moment where he thought he had control. But I didn't break. I didn't even stumble. And that was the crack in his game he never saw coming. The moment my boots hit the dirt and I turned away with the plaque, the noise shifted. The crowd wasn't clapping anymore, just a low, buzzing murmur. Confused voices, gasps, some guy on his phone saying, "Did you see that?" And then clear as a damn gunshot, "Detain him now." The voice cut clean through the air. Rhonda Mitchell. I knew it instantly. You don't forget a voice like hers. She was the head judge, owner of Mitchell Auto Garage, and the reason this whole competition even existed. Built like a linebacker in a denim vest, she didn't raise her voice often. She didn't have to. Within seconds, security moved. 2 fairground staff in red polos, one plainclothes guy I recognized from the garage. They didn't hesitate. Dean looked around, eyes darting like maybe he misunderstood. Like this was supposed to be another one of his stories. Blow up, spin it, walk away. But no one moved to help him. The crowd stepped back like a wave pulling from the shore. He raised his hands like it was a misunderstanding. "Come on, She tripped. It was a dumb accident." He let out this fake laugh that used to work on my mom. "Y'all are taking this way too serious." The security guy closest to him wasn't smiling. "Hands behind your back." Dean chuckled again, all nerves now. "You're really cuffing me. This is crazy. Ask her, she knows I was just messing around." I turned, first time since the hit, looked him right in the eye, didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stood there with blood drying on my jaw and my fingers tight around the trophy plaque. He saw it, the shift, that I wasn't going to cover for him, that I wasn't 12 anymore. "You serious right now?" he muttered. I didn't say a damn word. Quick note, before we go on, drop a comment with where you're watching from. They cuffed him anyway. No struggle, just quiet disbelief on his face. Like he couldn't believe this time it didn't work. As they walked him out, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. No yelling, no clapping, just silence and space. People moved back, some whispering, others just staring like they were watching a roof cave in. He looked back once, not at me, at the crowd, like he still thought someone might stand up for him. No one did. Rhonda stepped out from behind the judge's table, arms crossed, jaw locked tight. "You okay?" She asked me, like it wasn't obvious I was bleeding all over my shirt. "I'm fine." My voice came out stronger than I expected. "You want medical?" "After." She nodded, then looked toward the gate where Dean had just been taken. "I knew that bastard was trouble," she muttered. Should have pulled him earlier. You knew him, I asked. Not well, she said, eyes scanning the crowd. But enough. He's got a reputation around here. Never anything this public. Till now. Someone called out that the sheriff was on his way. Another judge tried to regroup the panel like maybe we could still finish the ceremony. The fair manager looked like he wanted to crawl under a truck. Rhonda didn't flinch. Let him stare, she said. They just saw the strongest one here take a hit and keep walking. That's what they'll remember. I didn't respond. Couldn't really. My face throbbed, my heart pounded, and the blood had finally stopped running. But in that moment, with Dean cuffed, the crowd quiet, and Rhonda standing beside me like steel, I realized something. That punch wasn't the climax. It was just the start. The medical trailer smelled like disinfectant and rubber gloves. Too clean for a fairground, like they tried to bleach out the dirt and sweat of the crowd outside. I sat on the plastic-covered bench with an ice pack smashed against my cheek, watching blood drip slowly down the inside of my collar. It had crusted dry in some spots, fresh in others. The EMT hadn't said much, just cleaned me up, asked if I wanted a hospital run. I said no. Outside, I could hear the hum of voices, low at first, then louder. It wasn't just about the punch anymore. The name Dean Edwards was rolling through the fair like a busted engine rattling through town, everybody turning to look, asking what really happened. Rhonda walked in without knocking. She didn't ask if I was okay, just shut the door behind her and crossed her arms. We've been keeping an eye on him for a while, she said. No buildup, no sugar. I didn't answer. Just moved the ice pack a little higher where the bone felt hottest. He ever tell you he served in Iraq? She asked. Yeah, more than once. She nodded. We pulled records. No enlistment, no deployments, no nothing. I blinked, slow. So he just made it up. Apparently, she said. One of my shop managers saw him flashing a fake VA card last month. Said he used it to get a discount at that tool shop off Maynard. We reported it. Of course he did. Dean never met a lie he didn't think he could sell. Before we go on, tell us where you're watching from and how you found this story. Rhonda stepped closer, voice low now. The punch was bad, but honestly, that wasn't the first red flag. That just gave everyone permission to stop pretending. I set the ice pack down. My face was already swelling. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone and scrolled. He's told 3 different garages he was special forces. Said he trained in demolition. Told someone else he used to do custom fabrication for military vehicles. We tried to verify it all. Nothing added up, but nobody wanted to push him. He was too loud, too quick with a story. That tracks. Dean always made himself too much trouble to question. If you called him out, suddenly you were the problem. Disrespectful, ungrateful, jealous. She sat on the stool across from me. Thing is, when guys like that finally slip, they slip hard. And public. You think this'll go somewhere? I asked. She looked at me like I was slow. It's already moving. You gave folks a reason to stop giving him the benefit of the doubt. Now they're remembering all the little lies, all the weird moments they brushed off. I stared down at my hands. My knuckles were black with grease from earlier. Dried blood flaked across the back of one. I hadn't even noticed. Rhonda stood. He made you the center of the scene. Thought it would ruin you? It didn't, I said. No, she agreed. It wrecked him. She paused at the door. You need anything, you come to my shop. Don't let this make you hide. Then she was gone, and I sat there, ice pack melting, the noise outside rising by the minute. Dean always thought he could twist the story. Turns out he just gave the whole damn town something real to talk about. I walked out of the medical trailer, still holding the plaque like it meant something more now. The crowd had thinned, but the whispers were louder. I heard my name. I heard his. And by the time I made it to my truck, it had already started. A guy in a faded camo hat flagged me down at the gate. Hey, was that your brother? Dean Edwards. I stopped. Yeah, why? He let out a sharp breath. Son of a bitch applied for a job at our plant last year. Said he was Army, had welding certs, the whole deal. Boss hired him on the spot. Should have known he was full of it. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Within 3 days, the whole story started to come apart. The welding company ran an internal audit. Turns out Dean had submitted over 10 grand in reimbursement claims. Fake travel, made-up training courses, even forged mileage logs. One of the accountants got suspicious after seeing his name on the news, pulled the receipts, brought them straight to HR. They called the cops. The local VA clinic confirmed there was no record of his enlistment, never served, never deployed. No injury, no discharge, no dog tags, nothing but stories and some Photoshop jobs on old forms. And now that people weren't afraid to speak up, the rest of the skeletons started crawling out. One of the fairground vendors, woman named Angela, told police he'd grabbed her by the arm last fall when she asked him to stop hassling her daughter. She said she didn't report it back then because he apologized later and cried in the parking lot, said his mom had died that week. That was a lie, too. Another woman came forward. This time, it hit hard. She told officers Dean had broken her jaw 5 years ago during an argument. She'd gone to the ER and said she fell off a ladder. Never pressed charges. Now she was ready to talk. The punch at the fair, that was the proof she needed to stop protecting him. Before we continue, drop a comment with where you're watching from. The sheriff's office reopened 2 old assault reports from different counties. Both had gone cold because no one followed through. Just bruises, no witnesses, no charges. Now they had something fresh, on video, in public. Dean had always controlled the story, always kept people guessing, doubting, confused. One day he was charming and helpful. The next, a storm. But now the lights were on, and all the lies were in plain sight. People he scammed came forward too. Mechanics he borrowed tools from and never returned. A vet who said Dean used his service record to bluff his way into a discount at a parts warehouse. One guy claimed Dean owed him $500 for a side job and disappeared the next day. And through all of it, Dean tried the same old lines, told investigators the punch was misunderstood, claimed he and I had a rough sibling rivalry, said it was all personal, not criminal. No one was buying it anymore. For once, I didn't have to defend myself. I didn't have to explain or justify or dodge shame on his behalf. Other people were talking now. They were telling the truth. They were finally saying what I'd known for years. And Dean. He couldn't spin fast enough, couldn't flip the narrative or shift the blame. He was no longer the storyteller. He was the story, looked me in the eye. Some said sorry. Some just nodded like they finally understood. It wasn't sympathy. It was something else. Respect, maybe. Recognition. I caught myself thinking about that name he used to throw at me. Tin Soldier. He came up with it when I was 13. Said it after I refused to cry during one of his tantrums. I was standing in the driveway, arms crossed, face blank, while he screamed about some carburetor I'd apparently ruined. "You stand there like some damn tin soldier," he said. "No heart, no soul, just stiff and cold." He meant it to mock me, to make me feel small. But years later, I realized something. That silence, that cold stare, that was how I survived him. He used his voice like a weapon. I used stillness like armor. He filled rooms with rage. I filled mine with grit. That name he meant as an insult. It was actually proof I'd never let him inside me. Not really. One morning, about a week after the fair, I was under a Dodge Ram in my shop when Rhonda showed up. No call, no warning. Just walked in and knocked her knuckles on the lift frame. "Got a minute?" she asked. I slid out and wiped my hands. "For you. Always." She didn't say anything for a beat, just looked around the shop, took in the tools, the clean floors, the open engine bay. Then she said, "You didn't just survive, you won." I looked at her, unsure if I believed it. Not yet. She added, "He tried to write you out. You wrote your name in steel. Before we keep going, tell us in the comments what you'd have done in Carrie's shoes." That one hit me, harder than the punch ever did. We stood there for a second, grease and sawdust in the air, and I just nodded. "Thanks," I said, because that's all I could manage. Later that night, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, face still marked from the hit, but healing, and thought, I'm not scared of him anymore. That girl who used to hide her tools, who used to brace for the next outburst, who walked out without saying goodbye at 17. She was gone. I wasn't some sad girl with bruises. I was a woman who rebuilt engines from nothing, who got up after the hit, who outlasted a bully and kept building through it. And the town saw it too. My name was back on the leaderboard at the fairgrounds. Only this time, people knew more than just the build I submitted. They knew the full picture, not because I asked for it, but because the truth forced its way out. The silence that used to protect me. I didn't need it anymore. I had my shop, my work, my voice. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying his weight on my back. It was a Tuesday when the sheriff's office called. Deputy Langston asked if I could come down, said they had something that belonged to me. I thought maybe it was paperwork from the assault case, maybe something from court. I didn't expect what was waiting in that room. He sat me down across from a plain metal table, the kind that echoed if you tapped it too hard. Then he slid over a notebook, spiral bound, black cover, beat to hell. "This was recovered from Dean Edwards' locker at the welding plant," he said. "We figured you should see it." I opened it. It wasn't a journal. No entries, no feelings, no regrets. It was a damn ledger. Names, dates, amounts, favors. Some pages were just lists of lies. Who he'd borrowed from. What excuse he gave. One line said, "Told Gary I needed money for rent. Used it for rims." Another, "Said vet benefits delayed. Got a hotel room on Lisa's tab." Over 100 names. He kept records of it all. Like it was a game. Like he was proud of what he got away with. But it was the last page that hit me hardest. My name. Just my name. Carrie Edwards. Written in all caps, underlined 3 times. No dollar amount, no explanation, no scribbled notes, just a name. Like a final entry, like a warning. Before we go on, tell us in the comments. What would you have done if that notebook had your name? I stared at it, waiting for something else. A sentence, a memory, an apology even. But there was nothing. Langston watched me closely. "We don't know what the name means. He never mentioned you in the investigation after the fair." I swallowed. "That's not surprising. Could be he was planning something," he added. "Could be nothing. But it's yours if you want it." I nodded, closed the cover, and slid it back to him. "Keep it. Might help someone else." He hesitated, then said, "You're not surprised, are you?" "No," I said, not even a little. Because that notebook wasn't a shock. It was confirmation. Dean never hated me. He feared me. Because I saw him. The real him, before anyone else ever did. Before the fake stories, before the stolen valor, before the bruises and lies and smirks. I saw what was underneath it all. A man who needed to control everything around him because the second someone stood up, it all fell apart. He called me Tin Soldier because I didn't react, because I didn't cry or beg or yell back. But that silence, it was what kept me out of the wreckage he left behind. And now, even with his world crashing in, he still circled back to me. That last page, that wasn't a grudge. That was a reminder to himself that no matter what mask he put on, no matter how many people he fooled, I was the one he couldn't rewrite. He didn't break me. He didn't even dent me. I walked out of that sheriff's office with clean hands, didn't take the notebook, didn't want it, left it sitting there like a piece of junk that didn't belong in my world anymore. Now when folks in town bring Dean up, and they do, I keep it short. They ask how we're related, and I tell them straight. We shared blood, not values. That usually shuts it down. But even the ones who keep pressing, I don't flinch. I've got nothing to explain. The truth's out there, and it ain't mine to carry anymore. I still get sideways looks sometimes. Some folks don't know what to say. Others act like I'm made of glass. Like they're not sure if they should pity me or applaud. I don't need either. I just keep showing up to work. Every morning, I zip up my shop jacket. The one with the stitched name tag, Carrie, oil-stained, elbow-worn, zipper snagged halfway up. I wear it every day not to prove a point, but because I earned every damn stitch. That jacket's seen busted pistons, late nights, split knuckles. It's mine. Like the shop is mine. Like this life is mine. I pass the fairgrounds sometimes when I run errands. The sign's still up for next year's rebuild competition. Underneath it, they've got the winner's list from last season posted on a metal plaque. My name's on it. First place. Not because I took a hit and kept standing, but because I built something worth standing for. Quick note, before we end, drop a comment and let me know. Have you ever had to outlast someone who tried to write you off? Dean tried to write me out of my own story. Tried to make sure the last thing people saw of me was blood on my shirt and shame in my eyes. But I didn't give him either. He's gone now. Wherever they stuck him after the trial. Doesn't matter to me. Let him rot in a system he always thought he could game. Meanwhile, I'm still here. Still building. Still running my shop. Still taking busted things and making them better. Some stories start in fire. Some start in silence. Mine started in a junkyard and ended with my name carved in steel.